I love cooking. I love the emotion that people have when, they've eaten something that you've created, and I don't want to say life altering, because I don't think there's too many things that are life altering, but it's impactful.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Specialty wine shops / bar or restaurants have become a thing over the last few years as operators look for a point of difference in the market. But what's it like running a retail and hospitality space in the one venue, and how do you capture the best of both markets? Brendan Hill is the head chef of Tintino in Canberra. Brendan, how are you?
Very well, thanks, Huck. Yeah, excited to join you.
Yeah, it's awesome to get you on the show. You've sort of been bouncing around some of the best venues in Canberra over the last couple of years, but you're at Tintino. How are things going?
Yeah, look, really great. I suppose it's fairly well documented, the whole Lucas Group entry and exit, and I suppose that's where Tintino has now become my little passion project along with the owners. I joined these guys pre-opening, and part of that initial setup, which I've done quite a few times over the last few years, so fairly familiar to me, but really, really excited to be on board with these guys. And we've been open now for a touch over 6 months, and things are flying for us. And yeah, I think we've really captured a unique market in Canberra.
Yeah, it's an interesting proposition. Tell us a little bit about sort of the aspects of the business there and what you're doing.
Yeah, so hybrid space, wine shop or bottle shop, focusing on predominantly wine only. We have a few Amaros and that sort of thing, but mostly wine. And then we've got the restaurant component of it. So the guys have done a really good job in designing the shop and sort of segregating it without it being really distinct, I suppose. We've got the bottle shop towards the front and what we sort of call the retail space, where you can sit down, grab a glass of wine, takeaway if you want. And then the back section of the space is I guess more focused to restaurant and dining. So look, I suppose the biggest thing that we sort of are championing at the moment is the restaurant side. It's become, I suppose, fairly popular, and yeah, we're pretty excited about that.
Tell us about the brief that you have, or the approach that you have, given that it's a hybrid space. Are you treating it differently to other roles that you've had before in regards to what you can do on the menu? Yeah,
definitely. So I think probably since moving to Canberra, my role has probably been pigeonholed a little bit more into a particular cuisine or style. And I was with the guys at Harvac for several years when I was sort of moved down here, I suppose. That kind of led more into the Asian or Pan-Asian cooking. So alongside James Viles, opened Wilma. That sort of style was quite specific, I suppose. Beyond that, obviously moved into the space with Carlotta, and again fairly distinct. So being Italian or Mediterranean. Where now Tintino, brief from the guys was pretty much full creativity. Change the menu as regularly as I want. We want to champion local producers and suppliers where we can. And obviously working alongside Adam and Ben, who curate the wine list, food to be able to be adaptable for that. So think lots of snacks, lots of small bites, little share plates and that sort of thing. And then, a couple of larger dishes, I guess, as a main sort of offering. And then we do a Sunday mass on Sundays, which is kind of more geared towards the small snacks and wine orientated. And then we throw a little cheeseburger and a few little bits and pieces on there as we go. So, it's really quite fun, actually. It's nice. It's nice to not be pigeonholed into something and have full creative freedom, which is, I suppose really gets my creative juices flowing. And it's been nice to land somewhere where that autonomy has been really prevalent.
Can you give us an example or two of maybe two of the dishes that you have on the menu that could sort of exemplify what you're doing there?
Ooh, that's a great question. We've just done a massive overhaul in the last sort of few days. So,
Good timing.
yeah, perfect timing. Is actually was ironically we were trying to sort of limp through to beyond Valentine's Day to give us a little bit of breathing space. We've got a set menu on this Saturday for Valentine's Day, which is a little bit outside of the box of what we do, but we wanted to kind of maximise our ability for that day. And yeah, so probably look at the moment. We're just about to throw a mutton tartare on. So yeah, so that's that'll be a fun one. That'll hit tomorrow. Look, we're working with the guys at Wheeler's Oysters. Always changing up the little garnishes for that. That's something fun. At the moment, doing the Gary Roadley Tathra cross or collab with James at Wheeler's. Phenomenal product. What else have we got on? We've just started doing a little smoked mackerel crumpet. So Craig from South East Seafoods obviously line catches his own mackerel, smokes it himself. We've just put that on the menu, so that's a really fun little dish. Getting great feedback, which I'm always happy about. Yeah, that's probably. I mean, we change it so frequently, Huck, that nothing kind of sticks around for crazy amounts of time. Yeah, we've got a good little prawn, or big prawn actually, big king prawn over the hibachi with a little black pepper sambal. Yeah, we try and incorporate a little bit of fire there where we can. Yeah.
What's it feel like for you? We're going to go into sort of your chefing career, but you've been in sort of really big roles and bigger venues. Does it feel different being in a smaller space with a smaller team like this?
Look, I think one of, I guess, personalities is I really like to try and teach people. You know, like I'm by no means one of the greatest chefs out there. I've worked in some really good establishments, particularly in Sydney. Got nurtured myself, I suppose, coming through in some pretty hard kitchens. Spent the best part of 4 years at Aria under Ben Turner, and you know, the team that we had at that time have all gone on to do some really good things. And I suppose from that, learning, I suppose, yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one to kind of compare them, but I guess the similarities are in small venues, you still need to hold that accountability. You still need to, introduce systems. Everything's got to be fundamentally geared around a business working. So a small space in that sense for me isn't too different to a large business. Probably just a lot more moving parts and a lot more personalities to manage, I suppose, in big venues. But yeah, we got a really small, tight-knit team here where there's only 4 chefs in here, 3 full-time and 1 part-time. So, I think fundamentally the biggest thing is communication. And that's, I suppose, the essence of most really well-operated kitchens is really good communication. And that just trickles down. I suppose my ability is that I don't have to kind of broadcast that out to a lot of people. It's quite small. So probably a little bit easier. But I suppose the flip side to that is a lot more hands-on these days in terms of on the tools, a lot more. I probably was never off the tools per se, but a smaller space, less processes, less admin, less people to answer to, fairly autonomous in my creative role here, I suppose. So, straight to the boys, we throw a dish up here and there and we taste it, and next day it's on the menu. So we make a few little tweaks where we need to, and that's pretty much the crux of it. So yeah, not too dissimilar in some ways, but quite different in others.
Yeah. Take us back to when you were young. Whereabouts did you grow up, and did food play a role in your family?
Yeah, so I grew up in a little, well, I suppose it's a country city, but I still refer to it as a little country town in Toowoomba. So west of Brisbane, up in the mountains. Spent all my formative years there. Left when I was about 18. Made my way to the Whitsundays. Thought that was going to be um, a fun time, and it really was. Moved my way around a couple of states here and there, and um, chased the girls, I think, a little bit, which led me to a few different areas. But yeah, food probably didn't play a huge role um, in my childhood, I suppose. Like we probably were never really a foodie family. Like classic Anglo, upbringing, meat and three veg. Like it wasn't anything kind of extraordinary, to be honest with you. Mum worked loads of jobs to put us through private schooling, so probably was always in a bit of a rush to get something on the table. Dad was always a shift worker. Worked in the food industry. He was worked in the butter and cheese and milk industry for a little bit there at the dairy factory in Toowoomba. Moved into a commercial bakery, which is where I probably started to get a little bit of an interest in food. I sort of worked there in my early teenage years for a few years until I left school, and then jumped into a role as a kitchen hand and naturally sort of progressed that way. Fell into it, I guess, like a lot of people do. Someone walked out during the middle of service and I put my hand up and said, I'll give it a crack. And the rest is history. So, yeah, 25 sort of years in and around kitchens and food and stuff. So,
well, in those early years, as you started to sort of get a feel for the industry and start to build your career, what were the sort of important venues and people that you worked with?
Look, I think probably my first sort of dive into anything decent was when I moved to the Sunshine Coast. I joined a little restaurant. I had no plans really. I kind of uprooted myself from Victoria and went to the sunny coast and was on a pretty lean budget. Just had to find something and started working at the Wine Room, which was a Tony Kelly venue at the time. And yeah, look, that was a really good insight into some really good quality produce and food. And at that stage, I probably hadn't been exposed to a great deal. Moved on from there into a full-time role at a little place called Spice Bar, which was an owner-operator venue from Aaron and Kim Rattan. And I think that kind of opened my eyes, I think, a little bit to definitely the Pan-Asian side of things, but owner-operator venues are blood, sweat and tears. You see everything, they're there every day, first one's in, last one's out, really kind of taking a handle on everything. And he was a really good mentor of mine. I left there to go to Sydney. And that was a really difficult decision because they were like family. Like it was, I'd only spent 18 months with them, but again, pre-opening little venue, and it was just a really, really cool little spot, and just genuinely good human beings. So left there, went to Sydney, went there to work for my cousin, and they say never mix business and family, and I can agree to that. That wasn't the best career move. However, it opened up some doors, and I jumped online, applied for a job at Aria, and heard back from them the same day I applied, and went for a trial, and the rest kind of followed on from that, and spent nearly 4 years there. So Aria was definitely a pivotal moment for me in my career. Like, just I think a lot of people have worked at Aria, and a lot of people will resonate with this and know Aria and have worked there before. But beast of a kitchen, it's doing ridiculous numbers at that stage. I started there in 2011. And I suppose the dining scene at that time was, still really healthy. We would do pre-theatre a la carte, obviously tasting menus involved in that, and then post-theatre. So on any sort of given dinner service on a Friday, Saturday night, we'd be doing, 450 plus covers at a two-hat level, which is, a really, really big eye-opener. And again, like I sort of touched on earlier, systems, processes, communication, all those things were monumental in making that work. And I think Ben Turner as a leader was, for me personally, a really good mentor, and kind of tucked me under his wing and showed me quite a lot. And it definitely chewed up and spat out a lot of people. I think with the right kind of, grit and determination, you really do learn a lot in those sorts of kitchens. And, still successful today, still churning them out, still in the same location. They've been open 27 years or something like that. So testament to that guy, to those guys and that company that they're still operating in that way. And I think that kind of sort of shaped, I guess, my career in the long term. Left there, went and worked for Bentley for a little bit with Aidan and Brent. That just didn't work out. It wasn't quite the right fit for me. And then sort of stepped out of that and went into high-end catering. So really sort of bespoke menus and that sort of thing for high-end fashion brands and jewelry brands and that sort of thing. And we'd do, activations and, just really high-end events, private parties and that sort of thing. But really wanted to get back into the restaurant environment and landed at 12 Micron with AVC. And that was kind of my first sort of, I suppose, serious head chef gig. There's a couple of little gaps there from when I was younger, but I guess it wasn't anything that really, I suppose, shaped my career. It was just periods where I kind of just filled some gaps and was a little bit lost, I suppose. But yeah, Sydney definitely big turning point in my career.
Tell us about the role at 12 Micron. Did that change you? What did you take from that experience?
It definitely changed me. I think the biggest thing I took out of that, like I suppose at that time I knew I could cook. It really was the leadership and the management that I probably struggled with. You don't really get taught any of that. There's not a lot of people that have that great experience in hospitality in terms of mentoring for management and leadership. And you kind of have to figure it out as you go. And that can be really difficult, and you definitely make mistakes. And I think for me, I can own them and say I probably wasn't the best leader and probably wasn't the best manager. But taking the positives out of it is, I suppose, learning how to deal with people differently, how different scenarios, personal impacts, all those things can impact people on a day-to-day basis. And myself included, I think once you sort of go through some hardships and you realise that you need support and you need someone to talk to and, mentorship and that sort of thing and understanding and compassion, you probably take it for granted a little bit that we're all human and, things happen in life that impact you and impact your work, so, yeah.
What's been the biggest sort of adversity that you've faced in your life and how did you cope with it?
Or probably getting divorced. And truth be told, didn't really deal with it that well at the start. This is only going back sort of 4 years. I have a young son who's 7, and at that time, my whole world kind of came crumbling down. Fortunately, I had some good people around me. At the time, I was at Harvac. Mike, Pete, Dino, and all that crew, Chase, super supportive, like really understood what was going on in my life. I was really open with them. At the same time, though, I used probably work as a bit of a distraction, and I probably didn't allow my personal situation to impact my work. I suppose for the reasons, as I was saying before, is that everyone else was relying and depending on me to be that leader and that mentor, which I guess worked out in a good way. Like that resilience, I suppose, to kind of put it aside, and everyone around me knew what was happening, but I would hope kind of looked up to me a little bit, that they could leave certain things at the door, that the problems are still going to be there in some sense, but it's fairly easy to move on from things and, I guess deal with them in the right ways. But yeah, I suppose that's probably my biggest adversity. And I'm lucky enough now to have a beautiful partner who saw me during that period, and has been a phenomenal support. She works in hospo as well. So we get each other, and she understands my role and my responsibilities as a chef and as a leader. And she's entrenched in it, so she gets it fully.
Well, these days you're a common face in the hospitality scene in Canberra, but you made the move here quite a few years ago now. Tell us about that move. How did you end up in Canberra?
Yeah, so said ex-wife had family here. So we had a young son and decided that the best option would be to kind of surround ourselves with a little bit of family and a bit of support. Canberra, a lot of people bag Canberra, and a lot of people, sort of have some choice things to say about Canberra, that it's boring and all that sort of thing, but it's actually a really phenomenal little city. It's got great schools. It's got great open spaces. There's, beach is only a couple of hours away. Snow's a couple of hours away. It's got a great little restaurant scene. Got some great little, big, I suppose, craft breweries. There's plenty to do in Canberra, and I think the attraction for me was a little bit of a quieter pace. And I think you can get caught up in, you can definitely get caught up in the Sydney lifestyle, and it's hustle and bustle, and it's 100 miles an hour, and it's go go go. Where Canberra's a little bit more laid back. It's just a little bit nicer, it's a little bit more relaxed, I suppose. Yeah.
Tell us about working with James Viles. You mentioned the Open Wilma with him, with the Harvac group. What was it like working with him?
Look, intense. He's a really intense personality. He's a very driven person. He's 100 miles an hour, and he's always on the chew, as he would say. And he's always got something happening, So I think working with him and the energy that he brings is something that not a lot of people have, and I am probably somewhat similar to him. I'm pretty high energy, and I'm 100 miles an hour as soon as I open my eyes, So that's definitely something that resonated with me, and I fed off that energy. And, we did some really good things there at Wilma. His time was probably short-lived with me in that space. He went on to focus on his brand Off-Grid Provisions, and I think the balance of still having family in Sydney and that sort of thing, obviously a difficult trek down to Canberra so frequently, but yeah, phenomenal to work with. I still keep in touch with him quite regularly. And I guess his drive is something that is quite admirable.
The Harvac group is I guess, relatively larger group for Canberra anyway. But then you joined the Lucas group with their push into Canberra. How different was that in a group sense, and working with those different companies?
Yeah, I think I guess the biggest difference is, and I suppose I want to sort of preface it with Lucas Group is a very, very good operator. They are a massive company, 16, 17 venues or something like that. I keep count anymore. They open them so frequently. And Chris Lucas himself is an incredible restaurateur. Like, knows his shit. He gets it. He's heavily invested in it. He's heavily involved in it. The boys at Harvac, not as involved as they used to be, I suppose. Probably, when they opened Akiba 11 years ago, I think it was now. They've sort of handed the baton on a little bit, but at the same time, they're still involved in it. So 3 venues, all quite close together, Akiba and Wilma, somewhat similar market, I suppose. They rebranded Kokomo's, which was a highly successful venue, into Wilma. And I guess that space kind of needed the change due to the market at the time. I suppose the main difference is Lucas Group fairly corporate driven in a sense. Lots of layers and lots of complexities within the group and I want to say fairly top heavy in a sense. So for me, I suppose I've been in an environment where my role has been reasonably autonomous, even in within Harvac Group as the group exec chef there of 3 venues. As long as we were producing what we needed to produce and we were hitting our targets, we were, fairly well left to our own devices. So I think the difference with Lucas is that given that they've got so many venues, a lot of reporting and a lot of back end work that is probably most definitely all necessary. I suppose kind of made me sort of lose touch with the cooking side of things a little bit more than I would have liked. Unsuccessfully kind of hit the market here, which is really unfortunate. Great systems, great, great nurturing programs within, a lot of great chefs on board with them, no doubt. I suppose just probably not the right market here for what they do, which is completely fair.
How did the role come about for you at Tintino?
Left Lucas Group, had a bit of a hiatus for a couple of months, travelled back to France with my partner. She's French, so we were going over there for her father's birthday anyway, so kind of packed up and went over there for a month, took my little guy and my mum over. And when I came back, I was like, all right, I need to probably stop spending all my money and go and get a real job. And look, it was just advertised on Seek. It was I kind of was scratching around at a few things and sort of seeing what was on the horizon and, just shot my resume off to the guys and Adam reached out same day, gave me a buzz in the afternoon. I was on school run, he was on school run, and he's like, "Look, we probably can't chat too much now, but can we organise a time to catch up over the phone and then ultimately meet?" And just really resonated with them. Sat down, had a really good conversation. It was nearly 2 hours, I think. We were sitting down, chewing the fat in the space, and they'd had 90% of the space was complete. And I suppose really walking into the space, it just felt right. It felt like something that resonated with me and spoke to me. Ironically, my partner, who also is in hospo, like I said, she made a comment. She's like, I'm a little bit bummed for you, like, because this is something that we were talking about potentially doing. But at the same time, it's landed really well. It's I guess, like I said, because it resonated with me, it felt really comfortable right from the start. We have really honest conversations about things. If things are working, if things aren't working, what we need to change, what we need to, what we need to look at, things that are great. Adam's a a really well-known figure around Canberra. He's worked in some fun places and knows a lot of people. Nearly everyone that comes through the door knows Adam in some way. Which is really good for a locally owned and operated business. We've wanted to build this as a neighbourhood or community space, and we definitely get a lot of regulars, and we definitely get people that are coming for Adam and Ben and myself and the whole team. Yeah.
Being so much more hands-on now with this role and creating the dishes that almost go on the menu the same day or the next day, what sort of impacts it had on you? How does that feel for you?
I suppose it's refreshing in some ways. Hospitality is a hard slog. It's usually long hours. It's obviously mentally and physically draining. And I've been doing this long enough that probably those things don't impact me as much as some other people. But it's been a bit of a reinvigoration, I suppose. I think sometimes it's easy to fall into a gap or fall into patterns that are comfortable. But at the same time, my personal drive is to be, I love cooking. I love the emotion that people have when, they've eaten something that you've created and I don't want to say life altering because I don't think there's too many things that are life altering, but, it's impactful. And yeah, I think that makes you feel good, right? Like when somebody says, something that you've created is fantastic and they come back for it or they ask for it, or if it's not on the menu, that's why isn't it on the menu? And I think that little dopamine rush that you get, it's almost addictive. And, that's why I love cooking. I love, even for my son, my partner, like I love when I cook for them. I go home and I cook for them. I cook for them on the weekends and, my little guy emulates what I do. He wants to be a chef, much to probably my disgust. And, he probably doesn't realise what he's getting himself into, but that's pretty cool, that he's been exposed to that. And he loves cooking. He's just turned 7. He's got his first little knife for Christmas this year, and he's got his own little apron and stuff, and he can't wait to put it on with Dad and cook with him, which is really, really special. That's amazing.
What a joy to have you on Deep in the Weeds today, and very excited to have another great venue in Canberra. It's such a vibrant hospitality scene here. Brendan, please keep in touch and we'll catch up again soon.
Appreciate it, Huck. Thanks for the time.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Stay safe and be well.